And good evening from Lagos, Nigeria, everyone.
Yeah, good evening, Ola. Welcome. How's been your day?
Firstly, it's Father's Day, so haha. We don't
After 1001 Mother's Days.
I tell you, finally.
Um, yeah. Let's wait for people to join so that you can actually start.
Okay, so tonight we would of course the similar directions that we've been taking. So I will do a brief talk around data warehouse, the module that we have for today, day 7. It's also important to mention that is day 7 of day 10 of Microsoft Fabric, 10 days of Microsoft Fabric. And in case you're just joining and you're wondering, it's a learning journey for us where we come together as a community to co-learn about this new technology. What's it all about? We learn that in modules. There are 10 modules. Then let's take out a day for each of these modules. Then come back, every time like this, 9 p.m. West African time. For 30 minutes, we just share some knowledge about the module and answer questions in case there are any. So this is not going to last more than 30 minutes, and it has started right now. Right. So today's module is about get started with data warehouses in Microsoft Fabric. So what's data warehouse? In the previous modules, we've talked about quite some numbers of topic. For example, day 1, introduction to end-to-end data analytics with Microsoft Fabric that introduced us to what Fabric is. Day 2, we talked about lake houses in Microsoft Fabric. Day 3, we went into use Apache Spark in Fabric. Day 4 goes about data lake in Microsoft Fabric, understanding that technology, the data lake, data form. And on day 5, we talked about using data factory pipelines in Microsoft Fabric. Day 6, that was yesterday. We learned and also talked about ingesting data with data flow gen 2 in Microsoft Fabric. And today, it's about data warehouses. So what exactly is data warehouse in Fabric, and how do we use it? We'll link to this module. We'll learn about additional concept of relational database. Relational database are tables that simply data in form of tables, rows, and columns that you can actually connect to each other. That's why they are called RDBMS, Relational Database Management System, because you can actually connect them. They can relate to each other. And this is the common form where we find, enterprises, business intelligence solutions. Any BI, anything business are building today, most of the time, their report is based on the relational databases. And because of this, you also need the relational data warehouses. What is data warehouse? If you look at it, there is a store, there's a warehouse. If you use the retail company today for an example, when you order something, it is stored in their warehouse. They have it in their warehouse. If it's from vendor must then supply it and it must converge in their warehouse. One advantage of warehouse for retail company is that everything is structured and well organized. The rows, the columns, the different layers, data are there in the form they need it. When someone orders a phone, they know where to go to get that phone, and it is easier for them to retrieve it because of the way they've arranged and put it out there. So also is data warehouse. Data warehouse is housing your data in a form that is closer to what you need. You need data for visualization. It will have been modeled in such a way that when you enter the data, it will be easier for you to retrieve and get exactly what you need from there. In the data lake is very raw information that are there. Data that are there are very raw. They are not yet refined. They does not, take into, cognizance many things you will need in the business. So data is not, most of the time, they are not even transformed yet, because especially if you do extract, load, and transform. So they are there as load and they've not been transformed. At the data warehouse layer, your data has been transformed. And within Microsoft Fabric, if you want to build a data warehouse, typically the process consists of 4 stages. You ingest your data, that was why we're learning about the data format, and that's why we learn about the OneLake, the lake house. You ingest your data and you store it. After it's been stored, it then gets analyzed. or actually get processed. The point of processing is where you are transforming the data into a format that is ready for consumption. Before you transform to that format, you must know what the business need. And when you are transforming your data, you are making sure that, the way I'm transforming this data now, it will be suitable to now deliver what the business need. Data in itself is not useful until it is well structured. And data warehouse is where you can put it there. So I'm just going to stop here and pass this over, to Francis.
All right, Ola, thank you for your brilliant submission as always. So I think Ola has actually said most of the things that is to know about warehouse. So it's basically a relational database management system. And for those that are actually familiar with Synapse Analytics, you will know that we can say our data warehouse like your Azure SQL or even your dedicated pool. So it's everything that is based on relational database system, such that say you have your sales data and then you have your product data. So we are trying to find a relationship between your sales data and then your product data. We want to see if there is a sort of relationship between them. Instead of having a wide table, what do I mean a wide table? Say you have 100 columns. 100 columns, for example, is not efficient to be processed by the machine. We rather prefer to have a long table instead of a wide table. So a concept of denormalization that actually you bring into place when you are doing your data warehousing. So these are some of the things that you are going to factor into to actually break down your table into smaller bits that will be very easy for your machine to process. That's when you now start talking about a dimension table and fact tables. And then each of these table type, they have their attributes, they have the identifier that you can make them to identify them. For example, now when you talk about fact table, you are talking about your primary key, you are talking about facts like your sales, like your amount, and all of those things. And then when you are now talking about dimensions table, these are the attributes that are actually describing the fact that has actually been stated. So how you are breaking down your table from fact table to dimension table, and then you can then do a relationship, and then you do your data modeling. So before I don't know, I don't want to get ahead of myself because I'll actually be expecting for someone to ask that, okay, what then is the difference between a data warehouse and a lake house? So I think that's the question I'll be expecting from anybody. But if nobody is going to ask that question, maybe we can then talk about it and actually differentiate out why a big lake house is different from a warehouse, and then which is the best to use in your own use case. What are the things that you have to consider and factor in if you are going to use a lake house or you are going to actually use a data warehouse? Interestingly, both lakehouse and lake house and warehouse are actually based on data lake, which was what we talked about on day 4, if I'm not mistaken now. So, but how do you know the right ones to use? So there are a number of factors. So I'll just leave that to where you have our Q&A, and then you can then talk more on how a warehouse is different from a lake house in their fabric.
Awesome. So, personally, honestly, we need people to ask questions because there's a lot that can be talked about, and you get somehow confused if everything is done visually and it's not done. It's done in audio. While we are talking now, he has mentioned surrogate key, and I wonder what is this. But when this is visualized, you sort of, this is what this means. That is why at the end of day 10, we are doing an end-to-end scenario video session where we walk you through. It's a live session, so it's important you have gone through these modules so that you can catch up with those ones too. So, Faith, I'm passing this over to you to ask, to moderate the questions in case there are questions.
Oh, I just got a message from Faith now that our network is not great. So maybe I'll just do the moderation. And if there is anybody that has any question, please, you can come up mute and then ask your questions. And if you are mic shy, you can also actually drop a tweet. Then I can pick it up and read it out. Then we can then take and answer your questions. So Adebola, Damilola, Kenzo, Ayobami, Akonvita Ofik, AS5, Christian AY. See you guys. I hope you have been following our modules. But if you have any question from data warehouses or the previous modules that we have done, be it Apache Spark, data flow, Data Factory, any of the modules that we have talked in the past, you can ask your questions from day one up to this very moment. I guess probably people have not been following the way we have been doing the modules. And if you think it's something that we have talked about before and you still need more clarity also, please do feel free to ask your question and say clarity. That is where we are here to actually help each other get more clarity and understanding. All of us are learning together. It's a new product. So there are still so many things I don't know. I'm still going to learn about also. And it's going to be a question that might just help me to actually have a clearer understanding of the concept I'm trying to wrap my head around. So please feel free. Don't think any question is stupid to ask. Go ahead. Okay, so why I will just give you time for people to actually uh come up with their question. Let me just quickly talk about the difference between a lake house and a warehouse. So a lake house and a warehouse are almost the same. Okay, I think people are coming off me. So let me just accept that, then I can then differentiate it. Akomita, can you hear me? So you can come up with and ask your question now.
Yeah, yes, I can hear you now. Thank you. Good evening,
Yeah,
everyone.
good evening. Good
Yeah,
evening.
thank you for the work so far. I encountered some issue around the fall when I was working with this Delta Lake. The concept of managed table and external table is not so clear to me. And at a point, the code I was working with, like from the example that was provided, I was getting errors with those code, and I just left it and moved on. But it was not so clear. I don't know if they can do maybe like an explanation or something which is possible on this call.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Akonbi, for your question. So I'll try and answer your question. But as I'm trying to answer your question, so I'll still also advise that I should try again, but this time take it slowly. Now, the concept of external table and managed table means, from the name, you can almost guess what it means. External table and managed table. Managed table is a table that is actually sitting inside of your lake house. But external table is a table that probably you are just fetching from outside, let's say OneLake. You know, every asset in your tenant is actually stored on OneLake, which is the universal storage on your tenant. So your modern table is sitting on OneLake, but external table is sitting elsewhere. It could be on your Azure storage. It could even be on, let's say, AWS, that you are just trying to have a copy or like a shortcut link inside of your lakehouse to work with. So a table that is actually managed means it's part of your lakehouse. But an external table means that it is coming from an external source. That is why in your lab, you could see that you had to copy a part from your data lake storage, and then you paste it into your code so that you can actually fetch the data and then bring it into the lake house that you are working in. In real world scenario, you may actually, or most of the time, you have a situation where the data set you are working with is not just managed table. Sometimes you have to bring in external tables from elsewhere to actually do your analysis, or let's say data science workload, depending on whatever you are working on. So some of these data sets could be even on your services, maybe Salesforce or Dynamics 365 or any of the online services. So some of the times you get this table into your lake houses, and then when they are in your lake house, you know, of course, that they are actually in data format. There is an Apache Spark framework, and then it can then be easy for you to integrate them into all the data that you are using to work in your lake house. I don't know if I'll be able to answer your question. Maybe Ola can shed more light on this.
Yes, you've actually you've addressed that, because managed table meaning the tables that are managed within the one lake infrastructure. So they are there, you have control, access control, everything, but they're within that primary environment. I would just say primary table, because they are within that primary environment. The external one, because you can create shortcuts. Shortcut is also one feature in Fabric, which helps you connect to tables stored anywhere else. And you are not directly pulling those tables to your environment, but you are working with it because it's direct connection and without moving the data to OneLake. So those tables are actually external table. I hope that is clear.
Yes, that helps. Thank you very much, Francis. Thank you, Mr. Ola. I really appreciate that. I think I will take it clearly again, just like Francis suggested as well. But with this explanation, I think I can get some stuff that will definitely help me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, Adebola, I've been trying to approve your request to speak, but I think maybe it's network from your end or something. Maybe you can just drop your question in the on the tweet, then I can read it out. Okay, okay. So you can come off mute now, Adebola, and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I was
Good evening.
join today's challenge. However, concerning the data frames, I would like to ask a question because I've always been seeing data frame, so I really don't know much about Python. But I don't know if there's any difference between the data frame and then database. Probably there's a similarity between them. And
Between data frame and
database, I know of database, but data frame is Python. So I don't know if probably there's a similarity between them.
Okay. So let me quickly speak to this. So Python is a programming language. Database is a tool, a service. Where database is where you store, your data. And we have different type of databases. We have we have those that can take structured data. We have those that take unstructured data. We call those that have structure, we call them SQL, which is structured query language. That's what we use for those databases. Those that does not have structure, they are NoSQL because they can like MongoDB, they can take data in different unstructured formats. But databases in a nutshell is where you store your data. But in Python itself is a programming language that interacts with data. And not just with data now. Python is a general purpose programming language. You can use it for building websites, you can use it for doing other things, and you can also use it for doing data science and data analysis work. So what then makes Python, what categorize or differentiate Python based on the project you're working on is library. If you are doing data analysis, if you are doing data science, you use some common libraries like NumPy for numeric Python. So anytime you want to do anything, calculation, mathematical, is NumPy library that will enable you to do those things. We have pandas, which is for data manipulation. So panda library is what you use for data manipulation. And within Python, the way you're working with data, we have data frame. Data frame is a data structure. It is not a database. So it is in tabular format. And that's why because it's structured, it looks like a database. But it's actually not. Because the data in your data frame is not stored anywhere. It's stored in the memory of the programming language you are using. So when you create a variable and say table equals to pd.df, your data frame function, meaning you are converting your data into a data frame, you are literally converting that data to a tabular structure so that you can work with it. It's not stored anywhere yet. Yes, it's within that programming language. You can later write it to a data source. You can export it to a CSV. You can do anything with it. But data frame is what enables you to work with data in a structured format with Python. When you use R, there's similar, structure. There's also data frame in R. In any programming language, if you truly want to work with structured data, you must put them in that data frame form, because that is what makes it like a table, column, and row, so that I can now start working the way you will have worked with it, as a data set. I hope this sort of clarified that. Not the same thing. Data frame is unique to some programming languages, while database is a service on its own that helps you to store and manage your data. Not sure if this is helpful.
Yes, thank you very much.
And I think I know not just the clip now. I know Adebola. Now I just checked your profile and I realized we're together at Fabric Saturday yesterday. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the name too. I think I just have to add face to the name.
She was the one that showed that project. And remember?
That said that felt fine.
Yes, yes.
Oh, well done.
Thank you, please.
Yeah, so anybody that has any other question, okay, somebody's requesting to speak. Please send your request again. It's just drop off. Somebody tried to request to speak just now, but I didn't get the person. So you can actually do it again, so I can actually approve your request. Then you can come up news and ask your question. All right, while the person is still trying to do that, so let me just maybe differentiate between a lake house and a warehouse. Now, a lake house and a warehouse are almost the same thing, but what will make you decide if you are using a lake house or a warehouse for your project is dependent on the developers that will be working in that environment. While in your lake house, you can actually use Spark, you can use R, you can use T-SQL, but on warehouse is actually primarily on T-SQL. So if you have developers that are actually working on it, they are just familiar with T-SQL, then you want to go for your warehouse. And another distinction that is actually very critical when it comes to lake house and warehouse is the fact that on warehouse you can actually do your multi-transactional queries. If you check it out now, if you are using a warehouse, you realize that you can do your create statements, you can use your drop, you can use your delete statements. But when it comes to lakehouse, you can't do all of these things. You can't actually delete or drop any table or create any table into your lakehouse. So, but if you know that you are not going to be doing those kind of operations in your project, then you can go for your lakehouse. And if you know that your developers are actually comfortable using Spark and R and Scala and any other language that is actually permissible inside of lakehouses, then lakehouse will be the right option to do. But in a real world scenario where you are trying to give a business problem, a warehouse is actually more robust, and that is what it's actually designed for, as against lakehouse. Another thing that you notice is that on lakehouses, you can only do a read operation. You know, there is read and write. You can, when you say read, that means you can write queries to actually read and explore your data set. But you can't write. That is why I was talking about create table, do this, create all those things. So you can't write. That means you cannot write into your lakehouse. You can write a new data set. But on your warehouse, you can actually read and write on your warehouse. Another important distinction between a lakehouse and a warehouse is that a lakehouse can take both structured and unstructured data, whereas a warehouse is always going to take structured data. So that's why you can actually upload files into your lakehouses and then you can transform it into a data table. But you can't do that inside of your warehouses. So your use case and whatever you are trying to achieve will guide why you want to use a lakehouse or you want to use a warehouse. So in terms of performance, they are almost the same because they are both following the Apache Spark technology and their data sets are actually stored in data formats. So I think I should just stop here, and we just have 3 minutes to go. So if there's any other question, come up mute or drop a chat, then we can pick it up. But if there is no question, I think you will receive a convenience point for us to actually come to an end today, and then day 8, and we are almost done. I don't know if I'm the one that is excited. So any question remaining?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited already.
Yeah. So I think we don't have any question again, and it's almost 9:30.
So we can call it a day, and we've pinned, at the top here, some useful link. For example, someone messaged me in my inbox asking that, on my WhatsApp, on my Power BI, I can't see Fabric there. So I just published a video today that shows how to, enable Fabric, Power BI tenant. And not just that, I also speak through, the environment, and the other subsequent video that will be showing up will be about some use cases and other things. So you can also check that out. But the thread to all these 10 days learning journey is also pinned there, 10 days of Microsoft Fabric thread with daily summary for each of the learning modules. So when you click there, you see everything from day one. You can always go back to this single resource. You will see the learning modules. You also see the audio recording, which is Twitter Space Session we hold every day for each of those modules. So we're going to call this a day. Thank you all for joining, for asking questions, for making this engaging, for listening in, and to our host and favorite co-host. Amazing. We have a lot of things in plan for you guys. So we'll unfold them as the time comes. But it's amazing time ahead. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much, Ola. Thank you always for your time. Thank you, Faith. Even though you are battling with your network, I can see your reactions. Yeah, with us is soul, spirit, and body. So at this point, I think we'll continue tomorrow. We are almost done. For everybody that has been participating in the challenge, I say a big well done to you. And by the end of 10 days, you can add to your LinkedIn profile that you are an analytic fabricator. So all right, guys, we meet again tomorrow, same time, same venue. Yeah. All right, good night, everyone. Bye.